All I have to say about it is if James Spader offered me iced tea, I would say yes in a heartbeat. Hello everybody, my name is Mariana, and in today's video I'm gonna do a deep dive on my last 4 movies that I watched. The last 4 movies that I watched were Voicemails for Isabel, Lies and Videotape, Toy Story 5, and Supergirl. And that's like a crazy roster because all those movies are like so incredibly different. I also watched Toy Story 5 and Supergirl in theaters, and I watched Voicemails for Isabel and Lies and Videotape at home, so there's also a good comparison. Here is how I'm ranking every movie. I'm rating it out of 4 categories: acting, writing and dialogue, cinematography, and theme. If I give something a 10, it's equivalent to being as good as Young Art Donaldson. If I give something closer to a 1, that means it's as good as the equivalent of Bald Harry Styles. Okay, so you get that now. So overall, it's gonna get a number out of 40, and then at the end of the video, I will disclose which one ranked the highest and the lowest. Voicemails for Isabel is a rom-com written and directed by Leah McKendrick, released on Netflix on June 19th. Starring Zoe Deutch and Nick Robinson. Add him to the list of cute and wholesome Netflix boyfriends. Oh my gosh, he is amazing. This film is about Jill, who is an up-and-coming baker who suddenly loses her sister and copes with it by sending her voicemails. But Jill doesn't know that her sister's phone number is now the phone number of Wes, a real estate agent from Austin, Texas, who gains feelings for Jill while listening to her deeply personal and emotional voicemails. So I ranked this movie pretty high, actually. So for Voicemails for Isabel, I gave the acting a 9 out of 10, just because it was a cheesy rom-com. The acting was still very good, it just wasn't very demanding. So I gave it a 9 out of 10. For writing and dialogue, I gave it a 10 out of 10, mostly because it was funny and it was also really sad. And I love sad movies. If a sad movie is good, I will give it a 10 out of 10 overall. For cinematography, I gave it an 8 out of 10. There wasn't anything super special about it. It was just kind of like normal and regular shots, wide shots, whatever, but it was kind of just like you know, but it wasn't like super interesting or anything. For theme, I give it a 10 out of 10 because I have a younger sister and I love my younger sister a lot, and I cried watching this movie, so yeah. Another thing about Voicemails for Isabel is that there's like tons of Taylor Swift references, and SD Haim did the music for it. So the next film I'm gonna talk about is called Lies and Videotape. I watched this movie in my room by myself, laying in my bed, and it was so much fun and it was so awesome, and it's James Spader, so gotta love a James Spader movie. So Sex, Lies and Videotape is a 1989 independent film written and directed by, I can't say his last name, Steven Soderbergh, I believe. The film follows a woman named Anne who is stuck in an emotionless and sexually unfulfilled relationship with her husband John, a rude but quite successful lawyer who is sleeping with Anne's sister Cynthia. Tension builds when John's college friend Graham, who's played by James Spader, returns and grows closer with Anne. So I loved this movie like a lot, like probably a lot more than I should given what it's about, but it's rated a 96 on Rotten Tomatoes and a 3.9 on Letterboxd. So this movie is incredible. I really enjoyed it. Also, it's James Spader, and he's like one of my favorite actors. Can't even describe to you how incredible he is as an actor. Like everything that I've seen him in, he's just like, he plays the character so well. He always gives it his all, and he never holds back, like ever, and it's incredible. So again, acting, writing, cinematography, and theme. For acting, I gave it a 10 out of 10. For writing and dialogue, I gave it a 10 out of 10. For cinematography, I gave it an 8 out of 10 just because there wasn't anything really that like stood out. It wasn't like bad by any means, it just wasn't super interesting or anything. And for theme, I gave it a 10 out of 10 because it's basically just about weird sex freaks, and I love movies like that. Like Secretary is one of my favorite movies ever. That's why I love James Spader so much. This movie is absolutely incredible, and I love it a lot. All I have to say about it is if James Spader offered me iced tea, I would say yes in a heartbeat. Also, why did he always leave his door open? That's what I was thinking about the entire movie, though, is why did he leave his door open, like unlocked, I mean, every time. Like anytime anybody came into his apartment, they never knocked, they just opened the door and walked in. And that's really problematic because you have a bunch of videotapes about women talking about their sex lives just like laying around your apartment, and anybody could come in and take that. So you might want to be a little bit more careful. I also found out that the main character, Anne, is played by, I'll put her name on the screen, I'm forgetting it right now, but that's Margaret Qualley's mother, which is awesome. And she is like beautiful. Like, I'm looking at her photos from like her now, and she is like, she's aged so well. She is such like, oh my gosh, she just looks like she'd be so kind, and I want to be like friends with her. Like, she just looks amazing. The next movie I watched was Toy Story 5, and I also watched this movie in theaters. But before we get into my review, I just want to say how I feel about Toy Story as a franchise. So Andy's toys are mostly men, and if they are female toys like Bo Peep and Mrs. Potato Head, they're there as a supporting role or as a romantic interest. And women should not be confined to just romantic interests at all. We have lives as well, we have stories to tell, so don't cut us out from the narrative. There was lots of sexism within Toy Story, so if you're interested in that, please read an article about it. Sexism still exists, and it will until everyone acknowledges it and decides to make a significant change for the better. I just wanted to say that because I can't not say anything about it because it pisses me off, like, a lot. So this is what Toy Story 5 is about. In Toy Story 5, 8-year-old Bonnie is given a lily pad, which is basically just an iPad, or it's more so like a leapfrog if anybody had those when they were younger. Because of this, Bonnie stops playing with toys and stops using her imagination because she's constantly distracted by using her lily pad. Jessie, which amazing female main character, and Bullseye work together to find Bonnie a real friend. And I think the concept of this movie is incredible. It's such a good concept to be, okay, she gets an iPad and she has to work hard to not be on it. And I get that she's 8 years old, like, I get, like, you don't really know much better than to just do what everyone else is doing, especially if your friends are really into it. But I do think we really lost the plot towards the end, but I will explain in a minute. This is what I wrote for my Letterboxd review, and then I'll explain why. This is what I wrote. Ending felt rushed, theme felt not important, way too many jokes. I also didn't cry, and I usually cry at kids' movies. I enjoyed it, but it wasn't anything special. So because it's a kids' movie, they have to, like, over-explain, like, every decision they make. Anytime they're doing anything, they have to say what they're doing 1,000 times, but I feel like I kind of stopped doing that within the last 5 minutes of the conclusion of the movie, and that's why it kind of felt rushed to me, not because it was, like, under-explained, but because they didn't continue with the style of writing that they had for the rest of the movie. And saying that the theme felt not important is kind of insane, because, like, theme is the most important part of everything, but this movie, it just really didn't feel like it was explained very well, is what I would say, because I think they kind of brushed it over at the end, and I think that when a kid watches this, they're not going to learn anything from it. I personally think this is a total, in my opinion, this is a hot take, okay? Everybody loves Toy Story 5, I didn't love it that much, okay? I think that they were trying to change too much, that it ended up changing nothing. When you appeal to too many people, you appeal to nobody, and I think that's what they were trying to do with the theme of the movie by saying you have to divide your energy towards playing with toys and also being on your iPad, which makes a lot of sense, but I also think that they really didn't do a good job at doing that. Hi, this is Editing Mariana, and I just wanted to say that I think that with the theme of Toy Story, they definitely got the point across. I don't think it'll get the point across for kids, and I think it'll just get the point across for adults, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. As a child, I know the meaning of this movie would have brushed over my head, and it's because it's a kid's movie, and it's not like as an 8-year-old, I'm watching a movie and analyzing the theme of it. But I just think they could have made the theme a little bit more apparent, because throughout the movie, Jessie is just, like, trying to get back home and find a friend for Bonnie, and they don't really do a very good job at explaining the cyberbullying that Bonnie got, or really explaining anything else about the side effects of having an iPad. So here's my ranking. It was kind of hard to do this because it is an animated film. For acting, I gave it 9 out of 10 because the voice actors just do an incredible job, and I can't really say anything bad about it. Writing and dialogue, I gave it a 9 out of 10. Scrap that. I'm gonna give it an 8 out of 10 for writing and dialogue because it was definitely funny. Editing me again, I just wanted to say that I think a lot of the theme got lost within the silliness of the film and the amount of jokes that they made. And there was lots of, like, very good moments, heartfelt moments and wholesome moments, but I feel like it wasn't super interesting. Like, as a 17-year-old watching Toy Story, it didn't, like, grasp at any heartstrings for me, even though I was an anxious kid growing up. I was a quiet kid, but I didn't really connect with the story that much, which is so strange. Like, I was thinking I was going to cry when I figured out what this movie was about, because I'm like, this is so something that I would connect to, because I also had a hard time making friends when I was younger, whatever, right? But that just, it didn't really pull at any heartstrings for me, which is so weird, because usually movies like this do. I gave cinematography 8 out of 10. Because it's an animated movie, I gave it more like on the animation scale. I gave it an 8 out of 10 because the animation was incredible, but it just felt very real. It didn't really feel like it was animated, so that's the only reason I gave it an 8 out of 10. It was perfect. I'm not like an animator, so don't sue me. For theme, I gave it a 4 out of 10, which I already explained. Okay, so now I'm going to talk about Supergirl, but before I do, I just want to talk about a little bit my expectations going into the movie. I had a perfect Superman summer last year, and it was incredible. I watched Superman in theaters 2 times, and I loved it. I still love it. I literally bought it on Prime Video when it was $30 because I wanted to watch it again so bad. The writing is incredible. The theme is like literally incredible. Me and my friends thought that it was actually gonna change action movies for the better, but after watching Supergirl, which is in the same universe, we know that it has not. Theme of the movie, it was hopeful, it was happy. And not all action movies have to be hopeful and happy, but if you want an action movie to have emotion and want us to actually feel something by watching it, you put in a theme that actually means something for the world, okay? Because it's very hard to make a theme for a movie that is in a fictional place, fictional universe of things that won't happen in the real world. So it's very difficult to make it seem like it's important and actually has meaning for us here and now. But Superman did that. It made us seem hopeful for the future and happy that we have people next to us and that we are happy in our own skin and grateful for ourselves. But I think Supergirl really lost the plot with it. And I found a Letterboxd review for Supergirl that I will read out that I think really explains why I'm mad about it. This person is 630 on Letterboxd, so thank you for your review. It says, this movie understood that Superman is hope and Supergirl is consequence. And I agree with that. They understood that, but they didn't really share that very well. So before I go more into that, I will explain what happened in Supergirl. Supergirl is played by Millie Alcock, and this movie was directed by Greg Gillespie. Sorry if I'm butchering that. Supergirl is met by an enemy and teams up with a young girl named Ruthie in search of revenge. And I just want to explain that Supergirl isn't the one who's in search for revenge, it's the young girl, and the young girl approaches Supergirl for help, not the other way around. But yeah, so this really pisses me off because, as I explained earlier, Superman is all about hope and happiness. Supergirl is an action movie where the best friend becomes friends with the superhero by the end of the movie, okay? Stupid, boring, and overdone. I think that is so freaking annoying, and I hated that so much. Supergirl was supposed to be the consequence behind actions, okay? Supergirl did that for maybe about a little bit of the movie, but never in the movie did she explain why her name was Supergirl. When she was asked the question, why are you Supergirl and he's Superman, she dodged the question, didn't even answer it, which is stupid because, as I was saying earlier about Toy Story, sexism still exists. And the fact that you dodged the question is so annoying because you had the chance to be so cool and so, I'm a feminist, I'm awesome, I'm a cool girl, I'm a cool older sister. If she had explained why her name was Supergirl and not Superwoman in a way that would have made it not sexist, it would have been so cool and so awesome, and I would have respected her character a lot more. But they didn't do that, so that's why this movie actually pisses me off so much, not just because of that, but also because this movie didn't share anything about consequence. If this movie's overall theme was your actions have consequences, they would have made this movie a lot better. I believe that. I so believe that to be true, and they should have made it a lot better. Here is my ranking of it. For acting, I gave it an 8 out of 10. For writing and dialogue, I gave it a 6 out of 10 because there were good moments, and for an action movie, what can you expect? For cinematography, I gave it an 8 out of 10 because, again, nothing super special. And for theme, I gave it a 3 out of 10. because of what I just explained. So in conclusion, for every single movie, I'll tell you out of 40 how much they scored. So in total, Voicemails for Isabel scored a 37 out of 40, Sex, Lies, and Videotape scored a 38 out of 40, Toy Story 5 scored a 29 out of 40, and Supergirl scored a 29 out of 40. So my favorite movie that I watched this week was Sex, Lies, and Videotape. Thank you so much for watching this week's video, and I don't know if I'm going to be here next week because I've been very on and off with posting, but maybe I will post, but it'll be my last one before going to camp because I'm going to go to camp for about a month, but hopefully I'll be back after then. So, bye!